It's been another very big week for energy news, energy drama, and unfortunately, energy misinformation. Now, we've heard all about the Texas blackouts in the US with another big cold snap there and also a cold snap in Europe, and millions of people went without power for several days. In fact, some are still struggling because the Texas grid operator can't get most of their coal and gas machines back on the line. Now, we saw pretty quickly that the Texas blackouts were an excuse for the naysayers and the conservatives and the incumbents and the ideologues to pile in and blame renewable energy. We now know that wind and solar played a very minor role in what happened in Texas. The biggest problem was with their thermal plant. That's gas, coal and nuclear. There was supposed to be about 75 gigawatts of coal, gas and nuclear producing power during the week, and they could only muster up about 45 gigawatts of it. That's about 30 gigawatts that went missing. That's about 40% of their capacity. Why? Because the gas pipelines froze and the coal piles also froze. There's an irony in this because we keep on saying, oh, we can't have wind and solar because they're subject to the weather. Well, we've now seen in the heat wave in Australia, we've seen in the heat wave in California, we've seen in these deep freezers in Texas that coal and gas is also very much subject to weather changes. Too hot and they start to misfunction and they have to sort of wind down. Too cold and they can't get their supplies into the generators. And at Renew Economy, we've been reporting on these developments in Texas and also in Europe, where they've had a similar deep freeze. We've been reporting on this in detail. But what concerns us is the impact of the new media code in Australia on the way the message is getting out. Now, Facebook has shut down all news in Australia, which basically means that that particular social media platform is just full of nonsense and lies and absolute bollocks, and no one can challenge them. Google has taken a different tack and is now paying some of mainstream media for the privilege of listing their stories. And one particular organisation that they're paying is News Corp and Sky News. And we were quite dumbfounded to see this week, in the midst of all this stuff about Texas and Europe, that the most heavily ranked story on Google News, if you search for solar news, was a piece by Sky News Australia, complete bollocks, about Germany, about the problems with wind and solar there, about how people were freezing and the risk of dying. It was completely made up, no factual substance at all, yet that was the top ranked story on Google News after they cut a deal to pay for this content with News Corp. Extraordinary stuff. We actually pointed this out. And what happened to our story? Facebook slapped a false information claim on our post. Just extraordinary. They tried to justify that by linking to another fact check which actually supported our argument, but there it was, big and bold, false information. Where is this taking us? We're seeing really concerning events in climate change. We're really seeing concerning events about the pace of the energy transition. And now we're really worried about what's happening with the media in this country, this new media code. We don't understand where it's going to, but I think in the first week there are really great levels of concern. Now, Renew Economy will continue to do the work that it does, which is basically reporting the facts, holding these people to account, writing about the most important things which are happening in our world right now, which is climate change and the energy transition and electric vehicle transition. And we will continue to do that fearlessly. We just hope that we are going to get an opportunity to have our voice amplified through the social media platforms.